from page 35 now. The dictum that truth always triumphs over persecution is one of those pleasant falsehoods which men repeat after one another until they pass into commonplace, but which all experience refutes. Truth doesn't always triumph over persecution. I've been seeing recently that people do resist change. Well, I haven't been seeing it recently. I've been seeing it for a long time, and other people have as well. There's a textbook I have, it's not with me here. It's called Diffusion, about how ideas diffuse through cultures. And it is an entire textbook written by academia, which has its minuses, but it's one of the better textbooks I've ever seen, which just gives one after another historical instance where something that was valuable, useful, and true was resisted and resisted, like, for example, scurvy. After the British Navy knew that a daily dose of lemon juice would do away with scurvy completely, they continued to resist that diet for well over 100 years. How about the doctors in the Vienna hospitals, when one of them discovered that cleansing the hands with some sort of chemical, I can't remember what it is, they weren't sure why it was happening, but cleansing your hands with this after you worked on cadavers prevented a massive number of deaths in the maternity ward. Before this, doctors would be working on cadavers and helping students learn about anatomy, and without even rinsing their hands, go straight over and perform a live birth. And it was not thought to be a problem. The number of deaths from these sorts of infections went way, way down. Then a new director was put in the hospital. The guy who had figured this out was fired, and all of these washing pans were taken out because the new director was like, "What the hell is this? Get this stuff out of my hospital." And the number of deaths went right back up. Whatever you say about people, they do resist change. And truth doesn't always triumph. In fact, Jay Woods sent me a video where there's a video contest about change, getting people to change. And you're supposed to title it something like "Change, Isn't It Obvious?" or something, and then the person with the most views of their video of a certain day gets $1,000. I couldn't do that. I wouldn't be able to do that video in good faith, because I don't believe it's true. From everything I've encountered in my entire life, the person who's willing to embrace something that they didn't know about before and have just come to understand is very rare. That's why objectivists are rare. That's why people who read Atlas Shrugged and appreciate it are rare. That's why people who change their way of life are so rare. So, change is fought against, especially by people who benefit from it. And it's just a historical truth that people have been commenting on ever since ancient Greece. The truth doesn't always win out, as he says here. It's a pleasant falsehood, and people repeat it until it's a commonplace, but experience refutes it. It's sad but true. Continuing the quote, "History teems with instances of truth put down by persecution. If not suppressed forever, it may be thrown back for centuries, or decades, or months." We skip down a little ways. "It is a piece of idle sentimentality that truth has any inherent power denied to error of prevailing against the dungeon and the stake." So truth doesn't have inherent power to prevail. In the long run, you can't hold it down ultimately, but it itself doesn't have any power. It requires people to recognize the truth and carry out the correct actions. And unfortunately, people are, as Jean-Baptiste said, or was it Bastiat? Yes, I think it was Bastiat said, "Labor is pain. Doing work is pain." And as Leonard Peikoff and Ayn Rand have both said, thinking requires effort. It is mental effort. It is like labor. It is like mental sweat. You're sweating, you're doing labor, it's difficult. And recognizing truth, and especially acting on it, requires effort. So we can see right there just the inertia of human action or human inaction is a resistant to truth. Sad but true. Take it from Mill if you won't take it from me. Take it from Nietzsche if you won't take it from Mill or I. Now, he talks about the legal doctrine that no person can be allowed to give evidence in a court of justice who does not profess belief in God. Any God is sufficient, he says in parentheses. So you have to lay your hand on the Bible and profess that you swear on the Bible. And then we skip a little ways down. This rule, besides, is suicidal, and it cuts away its own foundation. Now think about this, get this. Under pretense that atheists must be liars, why else would we have everyone swear on a God, unless atheists must be liars? Under pretense that atheists must be liars, it admits the testimony of all atheists who are willing to lie. So, you lie, an atheist, just put your hand on this Bible and lie, and then we'll accept your testimony. And it rejects only those who brave the obloquy, O-B-L-O-Q-U-Y, of publicly confessing a detested creed rather than affirming a falsehood. The only ones that it won't allow to speak in court are the honest ones. The dishonest ones are welcome. Isn't that stupid? Good point. Good point. Now we skip to the next page. We're on page 38 now. What is boasted of at the present time as the revival of religion is always, in narrow and uncultivated minds, at least as much the revival of bigotry. Now, in his day and age, religion was reviving. And interesting that the biggest atheist state in history, maybe one of the only atheist states in history up to that point, Soviet Russia, came about in an age well into this revival of religion. How is that the case? Well, let's just name a couple basic tenets of religion. Worship some larger, higher entity. Sacrifice yourself to this situation or entity. Belief in things that you don't necessarily understand or maybe can't even understand, some form of faith. Witch hunts, miracles. Now, all 5 of those basic things there, and the list could go on, but all 5 of those are found in Soviet Russia. Every single one of them. Witch hunts and Lysenko's biology and other things for the miracles. It was not an atheistic state. It was a very religious state. It was noted by somebody from Hungary who moved to America in the 40s or 50s. I can't remember the name of the book. Slipped my mind, but he said that the new religion of communism is taking over Eastern Europe under the guise of the Soviets. He said that in the 50s or 60s when he wrote that book. We all need to catch up with his realization that communism is not atheistic. It is a religion. Now, religion was reviving. It had been sleeping it was going to sleep. It was drowsy. People were laughing at it. Throughout the 1700s, people were laughing at religion. And into the 1800s, people were laughing at it. But there were revivals, the religious awakenings that happened in America every 20 or 30 years. And in his day and age, he said, it's one thing to say religion's reviving, but bigotry comes right along with it. And if we look at what's happening in our day and age, if Islam is the resurgent religion, and it is so bigoted that it's just like a very poignant demonstration of Mill's point here. Religion equals bigotry, and freedom of speech equals the right to